Okay, guys, I gotta come clean here. I do not care that much about DC. If you haven't already clicked off this video yet, let me explain myself a little bit. I don't outright hate DC or any of its characters. I mean, I love Batman and have enjoyed the greater DC pantheon in the past. The thing is, though, a lot of that enjoyment comes in passing. Typically, I'll watch something from DC and think that it's fine enough, but nothing other than Batman has really ever left a large enough impact on me to where I really want to get invested in these characters and their legacy. There's just occasionally been a show or a game with DC characters in it that would show up, I'd consume it, think it was kind of neat, then just move on. I never really find myself getting all that excited or pumped up when new DC stuff like movies or TV shows are announced because I just don't care enough for it to really matter all that much to me. I guess I just kind of feel indifferent, which is a perfect summation of my thoughts towards the topic of today's video, the Suicide Squad. My only exposure to this team of heroes, or villains, you know what, we'll just say anti-heroes. I feel like that'll cover all of our bases. My only exposure to this team of anti-heroes is exactly one piece of media, the 2016 Suicide Squad film. And if you've seen that film, you should know that it's probably not the best first impression. I actually feel like a lot of my indifference for DC comes from this era of DC films. A few of them were okay, but for the most part, I feel like you'd have a better time if someone shoved your face into a fully packed silo. And unfortunately, it was this barrage of lackluster films that kind of killed any kind of interest I had for DC for a while. I didn't even bother to see the apparently much better Suicide Squad film from 2021. That's how little I cared. However, when a brand new anime based on the Suicide Squad was announced in 2023, you can bet that had my attention. I mean, yeah, I don't care about DC, but I do care a lot about anime, so maybe this was worth giving a try. One issue though, this was Suicide Squad Isekai. Okay, I'll try my best to keep this brief because I know it's kind of the popular opinion to hate isekai, and I can't imagine people are exactly thrilled to hear that opinion spounded over and over again, but I have to be honest and true to myself. Isekai is also something I do not care about. That's not to say that there can't be good isekai. I think the concept itself is a fine one. The issue is that the genre is plagued with uninteresting dime a dozen shows that get mass produced and leave little to no impact. So really, Suicide Squad Isekai is kind of a perfect storm of elements constructed specifically for me to hate. So that begs the question, do I hate Suicide Squad Isekai? Let's find out, shall we? One thing that is immediately clear the second you start this show is that it's really fun to look at. Studio Wit, the animation studio behind shows like the first few seasons of Attack on Titan and Spy X Family, really did a good job injecting this anime with a lot of character. The action scenes in this anime are just really sporadic and fun, something I feel is very fitting for the Suicide Squad characters. Along with this, it's just really entertaining watching these characters move and just exist. They're all so full of energy and personality, and it really helps make them stand out. And it certainly helps that the designs of the characters themselves are very well done. Comic book characters are very interesting because often they're very iterative. A character's design, personality, and backstory can vary greatly depending on the time, culture, and people that worked on it. Again, I'm really not that acquainted with the Suicide Squad's legacy, but I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that this would probably be my favorite iteration of these characters. Well, except for one. For whatever reason, the Joker did not get the same sauce injected into him as the other characters did in this show. He does not look good. I don't understand why there's been this weird push at times to try to make the Joker hot. The Joker is a character that I have always adored because he honestly both terrifies me and also makes me laugh. He's just such a great, intimidating villain, and when he's given an appearance that accentuates his personality, it really adds to his sinister aura. So what is this? When I see this Joker, I just don't feel much. I'm not afraid, I'm not entertained, it just feels like he exists as Tumblr fan art bait. I don't know, I just thought that there was a lot of potential here, and unfortunately, they just didn't deliver. I like his piano card though. I thought that was pretty fun. Getting back to the positives, I think my overall favorite thing about this anime is the Suicide Squad itself, which, I mean, you would hope, right? I know I said before that I really did not care about the Suicide Squad in general, but I think the idea of it is pretty great. You basically have all of these super criminals forced to work together for the greater good, which is a great way to get a bunch of strong personalities into one room so they can clash and interact with each other. And here it is executed greatly. This show is funny, and funny isn't normally something I expect from any anime that is not solely a comedy anime, but here I actually found myself laughing out loud quite a few times. Rick Flag trying to establish peace between him and the people of the isekai world by speaking their language, and then having that plan backfire when you realize he learned that language from a bunch of ogre thugs in prison and is basically insulting the head knight the entire time he is negotiating with him, really got a good chuckle out of me. But nothing made me laugh the way Deadshot and Ratcatcher's backstory did. Deadshot basically thinks him and Ratcatcher are friends, when in reality, Deadshot only makes Ratcatcher's life miserable. It's honestly comedy gold. Watching what is basically the scum of the superhero world be flung into a fantasy world where so many characters rely on tradition and diplomacy and all that jazz, the juxtaposition is amusing. However, this really is only able to carry the show so far. Suicide Squad Isekai has one flaw, which might not seem like that big of a deal, but unfortunately that one flaw is pretty massive. And if you're wondering what that one flaw is, you needn't look any further than the second half of the anime's title. The isekai element of this show drags it down so much. I know earlier I was just saying how amusing it was seeing these characters' nasty personalities clash with the more regal and fantastical elements of the isekai world, but really that's only good for a few jokes here and there. Everything else pertaining to the isekai aspect of this anime is, well, what you would expect from an isekai. And I mean that in the worst way possible. The world here is about as shallow as a bowl of soup. If you've seen literally any other isekai, then you really are not missing anything from what this world has to offer. The lore of this place is not particularly interesting. The characters are about as flat and stereotypical as you can imagine, and honestly, it kind of makes the anime hard to sit through sometimes. Outside of the DC characters, I did not care about any of the people in the isekai world. Most of them just kind of feel like they exist to fill out the setting. You're not really there to care about them or their struggles. They're just kind of set dressing. There was a moment where the show clearly wanted you to feel sad about all the ogres or orcs or whatever they were getting wiped out by the Empire. Like, it even did the thing where it skipped the intro and just had the opening credits play over the show. It was clearly trying to treat it like a big deal, you know, like, I can't believe the orcs are dead. Yeah, guess what? I don't care about the orcs. At best, they are walking caricatures, and at worst, they are faceless fodder meant to just die or fill up space. Like, seriously, why should I care? And that's the question I ask myself literally every single time the story shifts to show us what's happening with whatever this fantasy world is called. Like, does it even have a name? I can't even remember if it has a name. That's how bare bones it is. It's just nothing. The most I get out of any character from the isekai world is this guy, and it's not even because he himself is interesting. It's because occasionally the Suicide Squad characters make jokes about his hair, which I don't know, maybe that's what the appeal of this show was supposed to be? Watch the Suicide Squad make fun of dumb isekai tropes? And yeah, it's funny, but I also don't think that's the kind of thing that you build an entire anime around. Like, maybe one episode, but an entire show? It's awesome when it's solely focusing on the Suicide Squad, but the minute we shift to these characters, I just want to take a nap. Oh, man. It really begs the question, why does this show have to be an isekai? Again, I don't think the concept of isekai is just bad by default and should be avoided, but also, why should you bother if you're not gonna at least put the time in to make the world our characters get isekai'd into, you know, interesting? Like, to me, this feels like someone was like, hey, wouldn't it be kind of funny if we put the Suicide Squad in a fantasy isekai world? And they just kind of greenlit the project without really thinking about it any further than that. And that's really a shame because the Suicide Squad is the best part about this show. I think that if they had just focused on them and ditched the isekai stuff altogether, this anime probably would have been a standout release in 2024, at least to me. For all I know, everyone else can think this is the greatest anime ever. And honestly, more power to you if you do. The main characters basically carry this show, and there is plenty of them, so far I'd say it's worth it to watch just for them and their interactions. However, in my opinion, I can't help but just lament at the show we could have gotten if it had just been a bit more focused on the elements that worked. You know, instead of trying to shoehorn these characters into an isekai plot of all things. So I won't say the show is straight up bad, but it is painfully average. But I want to know what you guys think. Have you enjoyed Suicide Squad Isekai so far, or are you a bit disappointed in it like I am? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and check out some of our other videos. We just released a new video on the latest season of Demon Slayer that should be coming up right about now. Why don't you, go ahead and click on that, see what happens, it might take you somewhere cool. Until next time, guys, as always, take care.